biggest inspiration for me is probably GM O'Connell, who no one will know, but he's the guy who founded the agency that I used to work for, Modem Media, and was the guy who pretty much invented digital marketing. And I joined Modem back in '95, 6 months after they put the first online ad up. It was really early days. And GM had a whole vision around digital and how that would change consumer behavior and the way that brands interacted with each other. And I obviously had the Kool-Aid, and I've stuck with it ever since, through the highs and the lows, and there's some pretty bad lows back in 2000, 2001, and fortunately now we're kind of back on a high again. But he had a huge impact on my view of marketing and how it would evolve. And it's funny because some of the things that he said way back then still hold true today. We just have slightly different words for it. We call it social marketing versus forums and things like that. So, but still the principles of what he said I think still resonate today. Who's your biggest?
I have absolutely no idea.
I thought it was going to be me.
It could have been. But you then walked out. So.
Well, I came here.
You came here.
And then I got you here.
No.
Nobody? What about like Steve Jobs or?
No.
No?
Don't like Macs.
Okay. You don't like Macs? I didn't know that.
Yeah, not a Mac person, Windows person.
Okay. Well, actually, when I think about that does make sense.
Yeah, it's
a little bit more of a Windows kind of
It's
guy.
more about the sort of the doing of the stuff.
Bill Gates?
No.
No? Okay. Gandhi?
No, definitely more Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney. Now that's really disturbing.
Genghis Khan, possibly more that
Genghis
side.
Khan?
That side of the world.
A bit more Genghis Khan than Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
So there must be somebody there.
No, never really
You want to
has.
stop that there?
Genuinely, no one I've ever.
By the end, I guarantee you, by the end, he's going to think of somebody.
I think it's someone.
And it will be me. When I left Modem Media, which was a great agency, bought out by Publicis, the first digital agency, and a little bit more on the creative side of things, but full service. And what really attracted me to Mindshare was a couple things. One was, my sense at the time was that all the great innovation in digital, or at least a lot of it, would happen through media. That was going to be the space where I think there was a lot of really interesting things were going to happen. And it kind of falls in the second reason, which is the proximity to companies like Google and Microsoft and Facebook, simply because of the leverage that we have with these companies, the scale, 1/3 of all buying. We can just do great things with them. We can do some things that are really big, like LG, Life in a Day, for example, is a great illustration of that. All the way down to really simple things, just the betas that are constantly coming out that we can adopt. And the reason I got into digital was because of innovation. I'm a very restless person, even though I'm from Ohio. I'm very restless, and I love innovation. And to me, Mindshare was a great place to be with great clients, great proximity to the great innovators within the business. And yeah, it's been true. I've been there for 5 years, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Great.
And I brought you along.
You did.
I convinced you over Chinese food down. Where
Chinese worked better than.
I took you to a good Chinese though.
Yeah, you did.
It was a decent Chinese restaurant, and Steve, who did a brilliant job running our technology and project management and operations at Modem. When the opportunity came up and we were looking for somebody like him, I thought there's only one person I would call up, and I bought him a really nice lunch, which I haven't done since then. I owe you another good lunch. And he's been brilliant to have at Mindshare, because I think one of the really interesting things we do is we bring together all these different talents, online, offline, brand, demand, paid, owned, earned skills, and I think adding technology into that has really fully sort of complemented our capabilities and enabled us to do some really interesting things with data, which is really important.
I think that's, so I mean, apart from the phone call and the fantastic lunch, which is a reason to join any business, in my view, to me, the reason I chose to come to Mindshare over and above the other roles in consulting type businesses or technology businesses is the huge shift in the marketing industry at the moment towards data and technology. Data and tech is still the Wild West when it comes to marketing. It's a new need that everyone wants. It's also, unfortunately, the latest shiny object, which means sometimes sometimes problematic. But I think what's interesting as well is what's interesting when you look at the world, the sort of the ecosystem of marketing, the most advanced piece when it comes to data and technology is people like call centers. Actually, the most advanced tech and data. Then it falls into some CRM, and then you fall into some sort of direct marketing areas. And then if you're lucky, you get some data and technology and media. Yeah. But if there's a wild west of data and tech and marketing, the ultimate wild west is media and the media world. And partly, one of the issues with that is and I think it's both an exciting thing and a daunting thing, is the data available in the world of media is totally unmined, it's untapped. The vast majority of what we could do with the intelligence of media data globally doesn't exist. It's that ability to quickly go and say, how much money are you spending on Facebook on that brand in Singapore next quarter? At any global level is difficult to do. It's not something we can snap our fingers and ask. Those sort of elevator type questions or sort of red or green lights are very difficult to create. They haven't existed in the industry, mainly because, as when I walked into the organization, the sum total of the technology team were a couple of guys who could do Power Pivot. That was the advanced team. So how do you move that into the world of telco or financial services automation to get to a place where we have real-time finger on the pulse? We can move millions of dollars of spend in real time to optimize it, to make changes, to work with clients to fix things as they happen, versus how a lot of the world's worked historically, which is you wait for 3 months for 30 people to tell you what 300 million people thought they saw. And then use that as the basis of everything you do.
Well, it's funny because when you talk about it, I mean, it does sound quite daunting, and this vision that we have around adaptive marketing and real-time data and how we can use that, not only for media, but to advise clients on all sorts of different things, product development, pricing, distribution strategy, et cetera. And it is a big task. We've got 115 different offices out there across multiple markets. It's a big organization. And getting that kind of capability from a technology perspective and a skill base into every market does take time. But then what's fascinating is you go to Portland, and we got a couple of guys sitting out in Portland working on Nike, and they're doing it all. They do all this stuff. They just make it happen. And the 21,000 variations of ads that we're doing for Nike and Facebook, where they are using real-time data, adapting the creative messaging in real time. They've got the full suite of technology available. So on the one hand, it is quite daunting, but on the other hand, you find through our network and our ability to share things, these great pockets of excellence of people doing incredibly innovative things. And I think the great thing about working at a business like Mindshare is uncovering those things and sharing them, not only within our organization, but also on behalf of our clients who are trying to do the same exact thing as well and have the same struggle of trying to surface up these little nuggets, these little gems of great things that are happening out there.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting being able to have the breadth of sort of the market reach and the type of clients from the financial services to luxury to automotive and FMCG. You see a huge variety in the type of things people are willing to do and how they work on things. And it's also interesting to seeing the level of engagement again from myself, from a technology perspective. You work with people in the financial services industry who are very, very data literate and very technically enabled versus people in FMCG world who really have no idea who's buying their products apart from basic market research, and how to bring some of those things together. And I think what's interesting again to me in what we can do, media is changing in the way everything works. I mean, old media was you had a relationship with your media agency, you did a big buy on some TV or some outdoor, you then effectively lay down your plan for the year and you ran it, and that was it. And that's totally changed. We're no longer buying a spot of media because that's the best TV ad spot or the information. We're buying audiences. We're buying people. We want to hit 24 to 28-year-old left-handed golfers who live within half an hour of a Waitrose. And we can do that. And an exciting thing for me is how's that world going to change? And how will, in a world today where we can do that on digital media, in 2020, we'll be able to do that on TV. or an outdoor, or an
Well,
ad? Will that be available everywhere?
Even now, the work that we're doing around correlating TV spots that we're running with search traffic or tweets, and then looking at how we can adapt the TV based on which programs are getting the highest social bump, for example, off of Bluefin data, or whatever the case may be, Trender data, for example. So there's already things that we can do using that real-time data to start adapting an offline analog world. And then when you think about TV becoming digital and IP enabled, and suddenly all the things that we can do pretty quickly within the online world come to bear within former offline channels as well, as they get reinvented. That's really exciting stuff. But the thing for me is that, and I think you hit upon this, it's part of it is the technology, but it's also getting the people that can do this. And I always joke, we've kind of gone from the age of madmen to the age of meta men. And it really is, and don't take this the wrong way, Steve, it is a bit like Revenge of the Nerds. I mean, I'm even starting to dress like one now. I don't have any tweed.
You're not tweed yet.
The closest I can get to tweed. And, literally, we're going to Star Trek conventions and trying to hire people that speak Klingon and get data. I mean, we're looking for the people that are out there that really know how to act on this data, how to get insight out of it. And I think the key is also recognizing that there are others that have some knowledge and insight to bring to bear as well. So quite simplistically, getting our search people and our TV people to sit together and talk is quite potent within itself. And the opportunities that brings to sort of synergize those two areas. I use the word synergize. I hope they edit that out.
I think what's interesting is you talk about the people side of things, and when you look at one of the examples on the change in data and tech is just the volume of things we're now looking at with all these Twitter feeds coming in and what's going on with TV. A TV ad is no longer the GRPs for that ad over fax at the end of the month. It's all the other data around it. What's going on? How does it affect? How many people are coming to my website? What's going on Twitter? How did that change retail sales based on that ad and 24 hours around it and the geographical analysis? And if we look at one of the brands in the States we were working with, the last 3 years of all of their data added up for all digital media activity was the same as one of our analysts watching 3 hours of Netflix. That's the amount of data. And now we're just implementing a system for the same client where it's the amount of data we're tracking for the same number of brands is effectively the equivalent of that same analyst watching Netflix full-time for 3 years, but they still only have 3 hours to do it in. So how do you do that? How do you process that much more data and change the way you think about it?
You need to have some technology in place that can help you aggregate it, filter it, make some sense of it, and then the skills that are sort of layered on top of that, I think, are absolutely essential, because it is like a tsunami of data. I mean, it is, and it just grows exponentially every year as you get more people tweeting and liking and plussing. And did you know that on average you put 3,254 pieces of data into a database every week?
No.
Oh, you do now. This is sort of stuff you learn when you hang out with me.
I think the last thing you told me was you act like you're drunk when you're on Facebook.
Well, that's the other stat, is when you go, and there's a big privacy debate around issue. There's a debate and an issue around it, because there's some research that was done about a year ago that for whatever reason, when you go online, you behave as if you've had 2 glasses of wine. Your inhibition levels go down, and therefore people tend to put stuff up online that's confidential or they wouldn't normally share with it. So I think out of this huge amount of data that we're collecting, ensuring that we're doing it ethically, and we've got the right procedures and policies in place, is absolutely fundamental to make sure our brands don't get in trouble, our clients don't get in trouble. So making sure there's some sort of governance and policies and procedures behind that, I think, is pretty important. The thing that frustrates me, because we've got, I don't know, 6,000 people in the company, 115 offices. It's a big organization, and I think sometimes both on the client side and our side, there could be a little bit of paralysis around things. And when we talk about adaptive marketing, for example, and the vision of that, and all this data that we can bring together, and the ability to act on that in real time, and you almost get the sense that some clients and some of our people sort of sit and think, oh, well, I can't do that until something comes down from the sky, and the whole tech stack is there and everything is in place. And you just got to make things happen. You got to take the vision and the principles and the beliefs and figure out how to work with what you've got. And I think our Nike guys out in Portland are a great example. There's only a few of them that are out there. It isn't this massive team, and what they've been able to do globally just recently with the Olympics, 21,000 different variations of ads, buying real time across the Facebook platform, adapting various components of the media mix, is great. No one told them what to do. No one showed up with a big kind of how-to kit with adaptive marketing. They just went out and did it. And it's funny because it's this mentality that I think we've always had in digital from day one when we made it up. I mean, no one told us what. There was no guidebook to any of this.
Yeah.
When we did rich media ads for the first time, we had to sit down. Okay, well, what do we do? How do we do this? And you don't always get it 100% right, but you slowly but surely make progress. And in parallel, some of the bigger things that you need to get in place, you do develop those things because you do know where you need to get to in the end.
Yeah.
But don't let it slow you down.
Imagine if back in the late 90s, the CMOs, the CEO turned to the head of the chief technology officer versus the CMO to say, I need a website. We'd still be waiting now for the first one to come out of Accenture.
Yeah.
And we'd have 3 million pages of paper to say how it should work and what the requirements should do. But we wouldn't have the document. We wouldn't have it there. And the change in the way agencies work, and it's one of the things that Mindshare's fantastic at, which is that it's a group of people who are hugely excited about doing things and want to make things happen. Sometimes if I properly put a CIO hat on, I can't be that excited about the way they want to do everything, but from a CTO perspective, it's total innovation and changing things and doing things quickly. And it isn't going, as a lot of the big IT industry would always look, what's your North Star? Where do you want to go? What do you want to try and build? And then let's get some benefits in 3 years' time when it's there. How do we get there quickly? How do you get quick wins and changes and benefits now?
The North Star part is particularly important because, through my whole career, and I often get this question in meetings, and people say, well, how do we become more digital? What do we need to do? And my answer is, look, you can have all the right people and all the right all the technology, but unless you've got leadership on your side who has the confidence to go out and tell people to invest in this, spend time on it, believe in it, it's the future of the company, everything that we do will disappear or fall apart or won't be that effective. And it really requires that. And the number of times I've seen where you do get some new leadership that comes in on the client side and say, well, why haven't we been investing more in digital? And look, we've been trying to push you guys. Every week we're out there saying, you need to do a bit more here. Here's some great new opportunities that you at least need to explore, not always necessarily do. It's a catch-22 for us. It's a real problem because we're often held back by some of the clients that we work with, and that can often catch up with us a little bit later on when somebody new arrives.
Well, it's also, I think it's at the industry level. It's one of the huge problems with data and technology, particularly. As soon as when you come into the world of big data, which is what we're trying to look at now, and how we're trying to bring all this information together, all this intelligence together. It's incredibly difficult for a marketing organization to do it.
Yeah.
The problem is that a marketing organization doesn't have 3-year based budgets or 5-year based budgets.
Right.
Budgets are based on this year and the sales they can impact and the way things work. It's why for so many years, systems that are built in agencies and in traditional marketing environments and media environments are built based on the budgets available that quarter or that month. And that's where we get agency work.
Isn't it? You need to get the CIO and the tech people and the marketing people talking together. But in the budgeting front also is another bugbear that I've got, and I think our people need to be more forceful about this because you often get in situations where clients are so fixated on spending every single dollar that they've got, often based on data, Steve.
Yep.
On ROI and results, and and then they complain that they don't innovate enough.
Yeah.
They don't experiment. Well, you need to find some methodology, whether it's 70-20-10 or 80-20, which is the Google methodology, of constantly setting aside some budget to experiment with new things. Because if you get caught up in the 100%,
if it's pure
dedicated to things you know already, you never really are able to explore that next potentially big thing or small thing that may really help you go to that next level in terms of what you're doing. But that's not to say go out and rush to spend money on Second Life. Don't do that. I've been through that.
Data's fine. You can put money in data.
No, I'm a little cynical now. I don't know whether it's because I've been digital for so long or because I've been living in Britain for 15 years, but I've got a healthy dose of cynicism now when I look at anything. Steve, what does the share part of Mindshare mean to you?
Can you do that without doing the
No, I can't.
the Godfather thing? Okay. I feel Dominic's in the room. I think from my perspective, the share side is about the global reach of the network. It's the fact that we can bring intelligence and insights and innovation from all parts of the globe and bring things together in a way that is incredibly difficult to do in disparate environments where you're working with multiple agencies, different teams. That ability to bring both the people together and actually have the idea sharing, but also the data together, the information together. So we can actually see what's going on very carefully at an information level, but also at an insight and action level from people's side. And that sharing of the ideas, the innovation, and the basic data and insight, I think, is the key thing. It's the network, the size, the scale, and the access.
Well, I mean, the sharing part of Mindshare is really important because it works at all sorts of different levels, and that's the great thing about the company is that it could be sharing from a cultural perspective.
Big fan of the open plan offices.
Yes, it could be sharing from case studies and experiences and innovation. It could be literally sharing code, you know, and some of the great just hacking applications, which I won't talk about publicly, that are being developed some places to get some insight off of things like Twitter and elsewhere are really fascinating things. But you know, clients really do benefit from that. I think there's a healthy level of this has worked and this hasn't worked, and things that you ought to explore that kind of weaves its way through the whole community that we've got. And what I love about Mindshare is when somebody sends out an email, for example, within the digital community, it just says, does anybody have something on this? Some research or some experience with Foursquare, whatever the case may be. And just the amount of answers that come back rapidly within a very short time frame, that's incredibly potent stuff.
Yeah.
An amazing ability to sort of crowdsource this collective knowledge throughout the organization very instantly on behalf of our clients.
Yeah. I still have that other 50% of do I really want everyone sending emails to everybody? But, hey.